Oh, there's Nick. Oh, look at him go. Oh.
Good morning, mate. You lost your wheel on your bicycle. Oh, okay, that's a training bike. Now we're going to run around. But since Adam is a good champion, I'm going to cheat with my racing skates. Well, sure, you have no patience to watch it. It will rotate for about half an hour.
Wow.
It's a race in 125mm skates. First time I'm doing today on that diameter wheel, because maximum I did 110. And yesterday you saw me with 90mm. As we say in Texas, bigger is better.
I haven't filmed much. We were too busy setting up the course. On the side of the road, you can't really get your phone out and do that when you've got to lift signs and stuff. So, yeah, I haven't filmed much, but right now we're getting food. We've just started setting up the Civic Centre. I have taken a rest from setting up the Civic Centre. There's going to be some other people doing that for me, so I have time to work on my bike. And I've got a souvenir right here from Human Power Team Delft and Amsterdam to go with my t-shirt that I got in 2019. Human Power Team Delft and Amsterdam. So that's pretty cool. Bit of a souvenir. I will wear that very proudly. I used a paint job from yesterday. It's pretty much glass. A few little ripples. I probably won't do 600. I'll probably start with 1,000 and just clean the surface and then see what it looks like once I clean all these little bits of dirt that have grit that have sort of settled in it, and then polish it from there. Currently it's about 95 to 98 degrees, so it's like mid 30s, like it's hot. And in here it's a nice steady chill temperature. The bike box is cool to touch and this bike is cool to touch, so I don't think this would have got hot at all in its storage. And when it was negative like 5 to 10 degrees Celsius throughout the winter, I don't even think it would have got cold in here being stored in that big box, which is great news. It means the electronics will be safe. On good news, the other auto parts store had 1000 grit, 1500 and 2000. Unfortunately, these were the last boxes on the shelf, so I'm gonna have to share with anyone that needs it until they get new. They did say they'll get it within like the next few days, but you know, if anyone needs it now, I'm more than happy just to give it to them. This is what the polyurethane looks like when it goes off. It's like a it's like a silicone-y feel. It stretches and yeah, it sort of breaks away just like rubber. And that's funny because it's really easy to sand. Like you just wet sand it and it doesn't ball up like a rubberized surface would when you sand it. It peels really nice. And that's great because you can polish it to a gloss finish. So the finish that's on there now, you can polish it back to this after you sand all the bumps out. Sanding is pretty hard in the desert when the water that you're supposed to sand with dries up. I've done it as best as I can. it feels smooth and it sort of looks smooth. You can see slight little ripples across the surface, but I don't think that they're big enough to cause disturbances in airflow. If I keep the skin friction down by polishing it really well, maybe that will mitigate any bumps that are actually in the surface. But most of the scratches are starting to get behind the boundary layer separation. Based off the shape of the bike, it's like the widest point, so yeah, hopefully it's not too bad. But you know, I can only do it as good as I can do it with the time that that I have. I spent tens of hours. I spent like over 4 weeks sanding this bike, like hours a day. I took an entire week off work and just spent that entire week painting it. So limited time out here before racing. I'll just do as good a job as I can do and push more watts to do 80. I've sanded the fairing as best I can, and I've taken that over to the Civic Centre. And now for the moment of truth, to see if the rear wheel actually fits into the rear wheel dropouts, because I took measurements before I left last year so I could make a new set of wheels, and you would imagine that the measurements would be absolutely accurate because of the verniers that I used, and I took a record of the measurements, but you never know. Yeah, so the rear wheel nearly fits. It fits nearly. The spaces on here and here are about 0.5 millimeter too short each, so I'll just figure 8 on a bit of sandpaper. And the diameter of this disc is a little bit out to the diameter of the carbon, so it's see that line there? I don't know if you see it on that line there. That's where it's rubbing, just on one side. So I might have to sand that down a little bit. Nicholas is being very kind and helping me with some plastic shielding that I'm putting over this part here. See how that hole's really big? Well, that acts as a Tesla turbine. So air can get in here and then it goes around with the wheel, and then it's not as efficient, supposedly. I'm not an engineer, so I wouldn't know. I just know the theory, not the maths. Calvin's the one to talk to about that. But yeah, this opening down the bottom sort of needs sealing off, but we'll figure that out another day, I think. Great success! Finally! I don't know how many test fits this took. Sand test it, over and over. It is finally in and absolutely perfect. So now, do those up just a little bit so I can bolt the brakes back in and check that the discs and stuff line up, because there's movement in the brakes. Once you set your brakes, you got a few millimeters either side. So yeah, there is leniency in the brakes, but it looks to me like they're in pretty much the perfect spot from where I designed it. Why is that? Just catching on the brake, that's all it is. I stopped for dinner. I didn't want to push through because I would have not had dinner and just slaved myself to death. So I'm taking out the old front wheel and putting a new one in. But if you've seen my other videos explaining, I'm pretty sure it was last year. Yeah, no, it was last year. It was like about halfway through the episodes, explaining how to take the intermediate gear assembly out and the fork off and then the wheel out. It's a pretty in-depth system to just remove the front wheel. but it's kind of all I could work with. Trying to fit everything in is pretty difficult. It would have been not as difficult if I designed it with a front steering wheel fairing that steers with the front like wheel fairing just here, sort of like Eda and Eda Prime. But I opted not for that option when I was building the bike, sort of after I'd finished designing it. And that forced me to not be able to drop the wheel out straight through the bottom of the bike. And then I had to try and figure out a way to bring it out a different way. And a splittable fork was the only other option, because everything's sort of like locked in with these rails that sort of like prevents the wheel from like fitting through any gap in any orientation. With an extreme struggle, I have finally got the wheel out. I was kind of crapping my pants for a second because I modified this derailleur hanger last year to accommodate more of a chop out here for a bigger starting gear ratio. And what I used to do was just take the whole gear assembly off to take the wheel out. And now, because it's permanently glued in place, I was wondering if that is even possible, because I couldn't remember if I'd ever taken the wheel out after I did this. I would assume that I would have been smart enough to test it as I'm doing it to check that I can take it out. But that was a year ago, and I can't remember a year ago, so you know, I can only trust that I did it that way. But yeah, we just got it out. Like the rear wheel, you have to deflate the tire completely to get it under and like fully squish it down. But we got it out, and it's time to put the new wheel in place. The wheel is in, the gears are back together, and I'm ready to install the electronics. Packing up. Oh damn, I forgot my hat. Yeah, I better get it. Anyway, thanks for watching this episode. I'll see you tomorrow for loading the boards onto the bridge. So thanks for watching. See you next time. It's about 9:30 and I'm going to bed.